Hey guys, well, I wanted to show you what I ended up doing on my landing gear on my Pescador pilot. I really had a hard time uh, trying to get the bolts down through the hole, down through my spacer, and down to the backing plate that has the two, I believe it's 5/16 threaded holes. I just for some reason couldn't get the threads to line up right. Of course, I had fishing line coming through the hole, the threaded part itself, and just couldn't get it to catch, and fought with it and fought with it, and finally gave up and got to thinking that there's got to be more than one way to do that. Once you run your line down, drill your holes, and then I run a wire back to the opening back there, and then pull my line back through the holes and also through the spacers. You really can't tell once I got this all assembled how big of a gap there was right here between the bracket and the boat. Right now there's only about a little over a half inch maybe. But when you have everything set up, you have your bar length the way you want it, and you decide where you want your thing to sit. There was at least an inch gap between the bottom of the bracket and the boat because of the rollover on the boat. It's not flat. So I tried to figure out, okay, how am I going to get my bolts in there and get them lined up, and also what am I going to use to take up the space between the bracket itself and the boat. I talked to, I believe his name is Tom, the guy that makes these things, and he said they have done one of these pilots, and they used plastic washers. So I went to Ace, and their plastic washers were like 59 cents a piece. They're fairly thin, and again, I had about an inch. So I thought, yeah, that's kind of ridiculous to pay that. So I got to looking around, and I run across this right here. These are easy shims. They're at an angle. I thought, well, that's kind of really what I'm looking for, because I had a big gap back here, not so big of a gap up here because of the rollover on the boat. So something that was thick on this end and thin on that end was actually what I needed. So these come to a packet of 10, and they're about $4. You just break them off, and these little slots, you just break them for whatever length you need. So that's what I ended up using to take up my gap. It worked fine. It just seems like it's going to be okay. I have contact here, and the same on the other side. I have contact on both sides with the shims underneath. So I figured that out. The next thing was trying to figure out how to get my bolt down through that hole and thread into the mounting bar that you pull in from the back hole. Got to thinking that it might actually just be easier if I run a bolt through that bracket that is under here, the mounting plate, and just have the bolt come up. And if I could get it through my spacers and through the bracket, then all I have to do is put a nut on it. A lot easier to thread here than try to screw something in where you can't see. So that's exactly what I did. I got some longer stainless bolts. They still weren't long enough, so I had to use a thread and cut more threads. Seem like they all come to where they're only about an inch long of thread. So even when you get the longer ones, they have this on the bottom. You don't gain any thread, but this part right here gets a lot bigger. So I just threaded all the way down to the end. That solved that problem. Screwed it up through the plate, the bottom of the plate, tied my fishing line around the threads of the bolt, and so it's already threaded into the plate. All I had to do was fish my line through my holes, pull the fishing line up. They popped right up through the holes. And also, when I had the line coming up out of the hole, I had also already dropped a nut onto the line. So when I'm holding the line up, the nut is just laying right there. So once the bolts come through, threaded each one. It was extremely easy that way. It was, to me, for my application, it was so much easier than trying to run a bolt from the top and trying to screw into something you cannot see. I fought with it until I gave up. So this method seems to work fine, so I thought I'd share it with you in case somebody else is having that kind of problem trying to get them lined up. It was just difficult because it's so far back there. You don't have any access points anywhere to where you can reach your hand in there and hold that plate. So thought I'd just share this with you. Maybe it'll help somebody out at some point. All right, thanks for watching.